Here's a video on how to improve your form with a kettlebell swing, and specifically how to avoid 3 common form mistakes that can be increasing your risk of injury, especially in your lower back, and also decreasing the benefit you get out of the exercise. The first thing we want to do is in terms of the swing, is we want to avoid water skiing. Water skiing looks like this. So you'll notice at the top of the swing, I'm really leaning back and my knees are staying bent. So when we lock out our swing at the very top, I want to make sure I'm not in this position, but my legs are straight and my body is vertical. So my spine is neutral. So we're tall and tight and we're not leaning back. So easy fix for this. If you have access to a bar, all we're going to do is we're going to put a bar around chest height, and I'm going to position myself where my shoulder blades are just in front of the bar. So not touching but close. And all I'm going to do is when I swing up, it's going to be no touch. So I want to make sure that my upper back doesn't touch the bar. The second thing I'm going to do is, instead of having this bent knee position, I'm going to go straight leg. So when I go straight leg, my quads are going to fire more. But again, when I go straight leg, I'm not going to arch my back. So it's going to get me really vertical, really neutral. Here's how it looks. So quick and easy fix. If you're water skiing with your kettlebell swings, put a bar behind you to make sure you're not leaning back. There's some physical feedback. The second thing is go straight leg, and that way you're going to find your lockout's going to be in this position as opposed to leaning back, and you get a lot more out of the exercise with that really good lockout position. Now the second thing we want to avoid with a kettlebell swing is what we call the human crane. Now a human crane would look like this position. At the very bottom of the swing, instead of being in this spot where my chest is still facing up, I'd be really bent over. The kettlebell would be really close to the floor, and I'd be swinging from a position where my chest is facing the floor versus chest up. Now when we do that, we're really loading up our lower back a lot more as opposed to our hamstrings or glutes, and of course, risk of back injury can go up from there. So a human crane would look like this. So in order to avoid that, a quick easy fix is grab another kettlebell, or you can grab a dumbbell and flip it on its end. And all we're going to do is put that kettlebell in between your feet. And when I set up, I'm going to make sure that I swing the kettlebell up off the floor high enough so I don't hit the other kettlebell. So it looks like this. So you'll notice if I come down lower to here, I'm going to be making contact. So I got to stay a little higher up. And that's just going to give you some really good feedback to make sure that you're not swinging the kettlebell too low to the floor and tipping forward too much, but you can stay in that optimal position where you have your legs loaded properly, you're not tipped over, but you keep your chest up better. And by doing that, your hamstrings, your glutes are going to work a lot more, and it's going to save your lower back. Now the third thing we want to avoid with the kettlebell swing is what we call arm swinging. Now we know that the swing should be mainly a hip exercise, and in order to do that we need to have the proper form with our arms being in contact with our hips during the hip drive phase from here to here. If we don't have contact between our arms and our hips, then if we have a gap, then essentially it's really difficult for our hips to transfer power into our arms, which creates that swing. So it's critical that we have that contact between our arms and our hips as we hinge back and as we hinge forward to create that swing. So an arm swing would look like this. Now you'll notice that as I swing up and down, I always have a space between my forearms and my hips. So essentially the way I'm raising up the kettlebell is all upper body. It's shoulders, it's arms, and by doing so it actually puts more stress on my lower back because I'm holding a weight away from my body and I'm trying to support myself with my core. So we want to avoid that position. So if you find that your arm swinging and you don't feel it in your hips and hamstrings like you should, One drill we like to use that works really well is called a swing no arms. So a swing no arms looks like this. I'm going to deadlift up the kettlebell, and I'm going to actively pull my elbows and my forearms into my body. So I'm always going to have that contact. Now the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid swinging the kettlebell. So contact with the arms and the hips and no swing. And when I do that, it really helps me focus on hinging back, hinging forward with quick power, but at the same time maintaining that really important contact between the arms and the hips. So here's how it looks. So it may feel a little bit awkward at first because there's no swing to the movement, but the idea is that it gives really good practice for hip driving up quickly and creating some power with our hips and always maintaining that contact with our arms. And once we've been able to master that contact from here to here with quick hip power, then that's essentially the base for creating that power to create that swing. Because as our hips come up with power, they connect with our arms. As we lock out our hips, then that creates the swing, as opposed to us just using our shoulders and our upper body to lift the weight up. So if your arm's swinging, give that drill a try. It's a really simple way to alleviate that and create that good contact between the arms and the hips. So overall, there's 3 things we want to avoid with the kettlebell swing, and 3 easy fixes that you can do to improve your form, and at the same time reduce your risk of injury and overall just get much more out of the exercise.